Well, I just want to reiterate how happy I am to be here and have this opportunity to talk about what I did 50 years ago, if I can remember. But I did bring some notes, so I think that'll help, and it'll help keep me on time. Let me take you back to the early days of the space program, to around 1962. I've been with NASA for only a short period of time, and it was the most exciting thing that anyone could do anywhere around, to be part of this big event going on. NASA was launching men into space in Project Mercury. President Kennedy had said we're going to land on the moon within this decade. There was so much interest. Life magazine was doing stories every week on the astronauts' personal lives. So there was a real intense interest on the part of the public in what was happening. Well, I've been there just a short time at NASA when I received a memo from the administrator, James Webb. One of the paragraphs in the letter said, I want you to look into whether or not artists can help us communicate with the public about what we're doing. Now, NASA had cameras covering every aspect of what was going on. Every nut and bolt was photographed by 200 cameras. So there's nothing that could be added to the photographic record. Factually, everything was there. But when you looked at the photographs, there was something missing. And what it was the excitement. The electricity that was in the air when you viewed what was going on. The hidden meaning, knowing that men were climbing on top of this rocket that was hopefully not going to explode this time, but actually take them into orbit around the Earth. So I thought this is a perfect program for artists to get involved in, to bring them back onto the front lines along with the photographers and help us document what was happening. But we had to be careful. There was no precedent for this at that time. The government was doing little or nothing in the arts then. There was no national endowment for the arts. There was nobody that you could talk to about it. And I wanted this program to go on. I didn't want it to be a one-time effort where we would cover one launch, work would come in, and that would be it. I wanted it to go all the way through the moon landing and beyond. So who should we talk to? Who should we get advice from? There was only the U.S. Fine Arts Commission. So we went and talked to those people. They said they liked the idea, go ahead with it. If you want advice, talk to John Walker, the director of the National Gallery. So we did that. We talked with him. He liked the idea. And he recommended that we work with his curator of painting, a man named Lester Cook. And Lester worked with me for the next 10 years on all our projects. So by the time we got to this point, we were approaching the last flight in the Mercury program. This was the Gordon Cooper flight, the 22 orbits of the Earth. So we talked with our contracting people, we talked with the security people, and we got 8 artists that were ready to help us do this. And Lester and I went off to the Cape, and we took care of that very first event. Then we went on to cover Gemini, the Gemini program, where 2 astronauts went into Earth orbit for long durations, and then we were there for the Apollo program and the landing on the moon. I left NASA in 1974, and I was followed by a man named Bob Schulman, who took over the program, and then he was followed by Bert Vollerick, who has carried the program into areas that we could never dream of, and really made it a full art program. It really covered it from every aspect, all through the shuttle and interior flights. So I'm very happy with the way things have gone since then. But for nearly 50 years now, NASA has worked with artists. And the art has been shown in major exhibitions. There were 2 shows at the major shows at the National Gallery in 1965 and 1969. And after that, the Smithsonian Traveling Exhibition Service took several paintings on tours over and over again throughout many years after that. And in fact, they have a show on the road right now consisting of about 72 pieces that has been traveling since 2008. And just finished for Rome this summer at the Air and Space Museum, and is currently being shown at the Las Cruces Art Museum in New Mexico. So a lot of people have looked at the work, a lot of people have seen the work, the early work, a lot of people looking at the new work. So in terms of bang for a buck, NASA has gotten plenty out of the art program in terms of communicating with the public. We've worked with a lot of different artists over the years. We've worked with Norman Rockwell and Jamie Wyeth, with Robert Rauschenberg and Doug and Mark Starn. We've worked with Annie Leibovitz and William Whiteman and Emile Decoux and the National Symphony. So I don't think any area has been really left out of the purview of the NASA Art program. And I'd just like to say that we wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for the great work done by very fine artists. We owe a lot to them. They took a chance in working with the government over all these years, and I think the results have been outstanding. So they gave more than we had any right to expect. And what they gave us really was a record for the future of some of the most important events of the present in a medium that's as old as recorded history itself, the art in the hand of the artist. So let's look at a few of the pieces that we collected. This is a painting done on our first expedition down to the Cape in May of 1963. It's by an artist named Paul Kelly, and he was among the first group. 7 went to the Cape, 1 we put on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Pacific waiting for the recovery of the astronaut. But a thing that impressed Paul was the power of the Atlas rocket when it ignited and lifted Gordon Cooper off into space with 22 orbits. It's amazing that a precise space expedition begins with a tremendous explosion, a controlled explosion, but still an explosion. Now, this is a painting done by the artist that I had in an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, waiting for Cooper to come back. It's by Mitchell Jameson, who is an art professor at the University of Maryland and well known in the Washington area. I think Franz Bader represented him in his gallery for many, many years. And Mitchell was on the aircraft carrier, and at the splashdown, the astronaut, Gordon Cooper, who had been sitting in this cramped spacecraft with no more room than the driver's seat in a VW Bug for over 33 hours. So when he got out, and the spacesuit was silver, and he was standing there in the Pacific sun, and he was stiff and lumbering and moving, Mitchell said it was like watching an alien from another world had just come to visit Earth. So he was terribly moved by that and did this wonderful painting. Then in 1964 or 65, I heard from Norman Rockwell, and he wanted to do something on the Gemini program. So he went down to the Cape, and I arranged for him to be present while the astronauts were being suited up for their test run on their mission. So he liked what he saw, and he wanted to paint that, and he had his photographer with him, so he took a lot of photographs. When he got back to his studio and began to work, the photographs weren't good enough. He had to have a suit. He wanted a suit in the studio. So I called Houston. I said, I have to have this suit for Norman Rockwell. And they said, you're crazy. We can't send it. So I called Norman and I said, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to get the suit. But he said, I've got to have that suit. So I called Houston again. And this time they said, absolutely not. There are classified things inside this suit. You can't have it. They slammed the phone down. Well, needless to say, when I told Rockwell that, he got mad. Houston was mad. I was caught in the middle. So what was I going to do? I had to have something for him to work from. So I talked to someone in the Office of Manned Flight at NASA headquarters. They said, all right, I'll make a couple of calls and see if we can't arrange something. So I got a call back and said, all right, the suit's going to go, but they're going to send technicians with it to guard it. So they arrived a week later in Stockbridge, Massachusetts with this box. They walked into Rockwell's studio, opened it up, and hung the suit. Rockwell painted all day from the suit. They folded it back up, put it in the box, and took it to their motel and slept with it. The next day, they brought it back again. So this went on back and forth from the motel to the studio for a couple of weeks. And this is the result, this painting. And this was in the first show at the National Gallery in 1965. And Lester Cook and I were over there putting these things up one evening, getting them ready. And the director, John Walker, walked through on his way home. And the Rockwell painting was up on the wall, and he stopped in front of it, and he stared at it for a while. And I thought, uh-oh, I'm going to hear something about